I'm happy to say that my new show, Realpolitik, has just come out. The first episode was released yesterday, and new episodes will be released every Monday with maybe a short break in August. Please have a look. Let me know what you think. Give your feedbacks, topic suggestions. I'd love to hear from you.
Before we go on, though, can we just have a look at some of the reviews?
Oh.
So I can't help but notice that the reviews are glowing. Like, all of these, thank you, fantastic. You know, the brilliant introduction. You know, thank you for this. This is going to be great. So just saying, everyone seems to really like it. the feedback we've got.
Very happy to see that. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. So we should have trusted the plan, I think.
Well, I just want to say,
yes.
I just want to say, you can look at my Twitter feed. I wasn't a panican. I
was a panicker.
I know.
I was a panicker.
Lots of people have been, and I've watched everyone be like, right, something's happened. I need to have a hot take, and it's like, no. When stuff is happening, you know, you don't know.
Yep.
Wait until the dust has settled. Trust the plan.
The thing is, I genuinely don't know. Is he reacting on gut and he listened to
Everything
the bass
he does is on
pivoted?
gut.
Right. It's either that or 4D chess, and I genuinely can't tell the.
I've got right. I'm sure he does hear that the base isn't happy, but the thing is, I don't think that Trump is some kind of regime change imperialist, right? What I think Trump is kind of like a king of kings. Right?
Sort of, yes.
Kind of like
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like an ancient sort of Assyrian king of kings. Like there is a certain level of dignity he expects as being the president of the United States. Because in his mind, this is the sort of overruler of everything.
Yes.
He's not the absolute monarch of everything, but everyone is supposed to pay him fealty. Right?
Yes.
They're supposed to listen to him. His position is important. But what that also means is he's got this kind of I'm kind of on both sides. Even when it's an enemy like Iran, he still understands, and in particular, he understands that they are due a measure of respect.
Yes.
Because he's actually not just 100% on one side and 100% on the other, even though he has obligations, more obligations to one and not the other. And so actually Trump, I think, is trying to be kind of fair here.
And the way that he plays the man as opposed to the game is always impressive. So with North Korea, the tweets against Kim, Little Rocket Man, were clearly intended to make some lackey go in, kneeling submissively and saying, "Dear leader, this awful oaf has committed horrific blasphemies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to report." And then the guy goes out and gets shot for just reporting
The great thing on that is the Little Rocket Man thing was belittling.
Yes.
Right? That's the thing, because, I mean, Kim Jong-un is a small guy.
Yes.
He's a little fat guy, and he's definitely going to have some insecurities.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So Trump deliberately belittles, but then as soon as he sort of comes over, Trump's all smiles and sunshine.
Very much so.
Right?
Very much so.
And this is appealing to what Plato would have called the thymotic part of the brain, which is what I've talked about quite a lot. You've got the appetitive part, which is your appetites, the rational part, which is your calculating reason, and then you've got your spirited part, which is your sort of emotional sense, where you will stand up for yourself if someone has insulted you. And all of Middle Eastern politics, in fact most of old world politics, revolves around this thymotic sense of dignity, honor, and respect.
Well, it looks like today is not Israel's day to get sunshine and hugs.
Well,
no, it isn't. So before that, I wanted to sort of explain why I got it wrong, because I owe you that, at least. We saw Bush campaigning on a restrained foreign policy and ending up in Afghanistan and Iraq. We saw Obama saying no stupid wars and ended up in Syria and Libya and with the Sudanese civil war. And Iran was the last one on the list.
Yes, it was.
So when the list of Wesley Clark, which we covered in yesterday's Daily. So when I saw that, okay, he's bombing the nuclear program now, I thought, here we go. It's happened again. In 2018, Trump said, pull out of Syria, and the Pentagon kind of said, no, we're not doing it.
And then they started lying to him about troop dispositions. And
then they started deceiving him and lying to him. And so my view was that, okay, we're back to the old game. And nope, trust the plan, bros.
Trump is actually cut from a different cloth.
He is genuinely cut from a different cloth, yes. And in that vein, let's have a look at this video when he was talking about Israel, Iran violating the ceasefire.
He also talks before, the bit that we're not showing you is him utterly castigating the media.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, he's always called them fake news, but he's really going at them here.
Yes.
He's very sick and tired of them. And sorry.
Impressively so.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Proper angry rant. It's hilarious. But moving away from the angry rant, let's cover this.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
The New York businessman can't restrain himself.
That's it.
That's so good.
I could have talked to you about political objectives.
Yeah,
and
you could.
Political objectives to the military force. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I think his is better. Fair enough. Yep. Credit where credit is
due. It's not quite Thomas Jefferson level of prose, but it gets the job done.
It really gets the job done. It explains the whole situation perfectly succinctly, and yeah.
So what I like about this is he's constantly offering them off-ramps.
Yes.
Right? He's saying, look, you can get out of this without humiliating yourselves. And he did this with Iran yesterday.
Yes.
And he's just done it with Israel. It might have been by mistake, and the Israelis go, oh yeah, sorry, it was a miscommunication. We had set up these things, and they'd done it, but we told them not to, blah, blah. It was, a small mistake, and Trump went, that's no problem, whatever. So he's constantly offering off-ramps, which is what, honestly, a good ruler does. Right?
He's offering off-ramps and a severe level of intimidation.
Yes.
Because he was making horrific threats about the Iranians as to what would happen to them if they retaliated against the bombing of their nuclear program.
I love this so much. Sorry to jump on, right? But this whole thing has been an incredible example of great man politics.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
It really is. Sorry, go on.
That's totally fair. And he sort of castigates the fake news for saying that it was only partly destroyed. In fairness, it was probably only partly destroyed.
Well, okay. So let me jump in on this, because this is just one of those things where it's clearly. So when everyone was like, "Oh my God, America's just bombed Iran," and,
right?
Everyone starts panicking on Twitter. I didn't. Because I was like, right, okay, but he's done this before. Right?
Yes.
He did it with Soleimani. He did it with Syria as well, back in his first term. When everything was coming to a head, he just, bam, here's a bomb. Shut up, right?
Right.
And, okay, yeah. He comes out, and then immediately, the hyper-narrative is the most powerful narrative you can do. Oh, I've totally destroyed, completely ruined.
Yes.
Nothing left of it. And the question is, well, did he? Because he's saying a lot of things, and Trump is... known to slightly inflate.
Slightly theatrical man.
A slightly theatrical man. And then, of course, we saw the pictures, like, okay, it doesn't look totally destroyed. And as you can see, there was no nuclear leakage or anything like this.
No.
But what's the point of the hyper-narrative, right? So the part of it was the military did great. And to be honest with you, it looked like it was a really well-executed maneuver by the US military. So fair play.
The Iranians saw absolutely nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And they completely, perfectly... played it out. So good for them. But also what it does is gives the Iranians the opportunity to roll over and show the belly, right?
Yes.
And say, yeah, look, you've destroyed our nuclear program. It's totally gone.
Yes.
If only we were as great as President Trump, you know what I mean? But
certainly no need to inspect it now, because it's gone.
No need to keep firing rockets at us because the nuclear program's over. No need to send in inspectors. You know what? That's a good point. So Trump has actually kind of done them a favor here.
In a way.
Actually done them
in a way. And it does help that it seems that they snuck out a bunch of the 60% enriched uranium. The problem that they have is that the level of Israeli intelligence penetration and American intelligence penetration of Iran is so high that even if they did sneak out that nuclear material, if they were to try to enrich it and process it into a bomb, they have zero assurance that they won't be detected. They have zero secrecy, and they can assume zero secrecy, because right now everybody who's alive in Iran at a senior leadership level is a suspected spy.
Everyone who's alive. Yeah, they keep going through people because the Israelis keep killing them.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So at the senior leadership level, if they were to decide to go ahead and try to enrich and to try to weaponize the enriched uranium, they're stuck.
And so what it looks like to me is that Trump has basically set the clock back like 5 or 10 years.
Easily.
Right?
Easily.
And so, so the Iranians are basically like, yeah, okay, look, they've ruined our leadership. Everything's a mess. We've had our facilities bombed, and they probably are damaged, at least.
Probably very severely damaged.
Probably severely damaged.
Yes.
And so there's just nothing that they can actually do. Apart from just go, yeah, okay, well, I mean, we could fire conventional rockets back at Israel if they keep annoying us, but that's where it's gone.
Yep.
And so Trump has essentially, solved the problem for the Israelis.
He solved the problem for the Israelis, and he gave the Iranians this off-ramp.
Yes.
Which was a very humiliating but pretty acceptable off-ramp. He said that they've officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response.
So this whole thing is just so funny, right? Because it's the warnings in advance.
Yes.
Right. So as I understand it, who's it? Like the Americans and the Iranians warned each other about the strikes.
Pretty much.
Undertook the strikes, so basically no one was killed.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the casualties for this is even 100 people have died in this. Very low casualties, right?
In which one?
The American strike on Iran and the Iranian strike on America.
Oh, yes.
So,
between the Americans and the Israelis, there were no American casualties. On the Iranian side, we don't know. They were all underground. Maybe they were buried in the rubble. Maybe they weren't.
They probably were.
They were probably have 2 days' notice.
Yeah, but they did have notice, and they evacuated a bunch of material, which means that they evacuated a bunch of people.
And the Israelis aren't taking many casualties because they've got bomb shelters under everything.
Yes.
So whenever the alarm goes off, because it takes ages for the missiles to get this, it's going through, so hardly
Yes.
anyone in Israel. So this is just a collateral damage war, right?
Essentially. I mean, the Iranians warned the Americans that this was happening. The Americans evacuated everything of substance from the base that was getting bombed. And so
I love how
everybody put up their pads and got smacked. And it was a fair fight.
Yeah,
we can shake hands now and we can move on.
Exactly. So if we can go
really
back to,
impressive.
So go back to this one. This I find really, really funny because basically, this one or there was another one where Trump basically accepted that the Iranians had to do something bad.
Yes.
And he was like, yeah, go on then.
This one, they've gotten it
one.
all out of their system.
Yeah,
and there will hopefully be no further hate.
See, that's what I mean, right? He actually understands the people he's dealing with in a way that none of the liberals...
And he gave them the last reply.
Yeah,
he gave exactly,
but dismissed it
because he knew that the sort of like thymotic politics of the ancient world that are playing out in the Middle East. They can't just allow an insult to go unavenged, right? And this is like on every level of society, isn't it?
Exactly,
like in every way.
Yes.
Because they're an honor culture. They're not a dignity,
pride culture.
A pride culture, yeah. And so Trump understands it, and he's like, most importantly, they've got it out of their system, and it's just like, there we go. Right, so,
feel better now.
Yeah, exactly.
Feel better now.
And they do feel better. I bet they do feel better.
They declared victory.
Exactly. There we go.
Victory.
They declared victory after having their stuff bombed.
So the way that they did the strike, they said that they launched an equal number of missiles at the U.S. as the U.S. launched at them. So they insisted that there's a parity, that there was an equality there.
Yep. We are big and tough.
There, really, militarily, but here we are. And they let them get it out of their system. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. And we saw the very enthusiastic encouragement just now in the video.
Yeah, honestly, it's so funny.
It is.
Like how Trump actually is just, like you say, playing the men.
Yes.
Right. And this was, again, what most of ancient politics revolved around is what's the guy like?
Yes.
And Trump knows it. So this is just so
he's reading them as people, and he is actually able to empathize with them.
Yes.
As opposed to somebody like Obama, who went to Cairo and said, all of you Egyptians just want to become liberal Democrats.
Yes.
And all of the Middle East just wants to become liberal democracy. And what did we get instead? We got the fucking Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah. And there's a weird thing with liberal international politics, which is sort of rules-based probability calculations.
Yes.
Where they're like, there's like a 70% chance they'll do this or a 20% chance they'll do that.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but Trump is going to make it so they do what he wants by just pressing his ego on them.
More or less.
While simultaneously being completely unable to figure out what Trump's going to do next.
Yeah,
I remember an interview with Putin, and he said, who would you rather have as president? And he said Biden straight away, because Biden I can predict.
Yes.
I mean, good luck trying to predict this guy.
And absolutely. And also, like, Trump is really effective at using this. I mean, look, you can see how he's threaded the needle here.
Yep.
Where it's like Iran are like declaring absolute victory after killing 0 Americans. It's like, Okay.
You lost your nuclear program. The Americans now have to fix a runway.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same thing.
But this is honestly is really well handled. I think.
No. Respect. I was really worried that we were going to have the same Bush Obama playbook where they say one thing and in the end they get dragged into another. It happened to Trump with Syria, and actually, no, he's playing the man. He's playing the game. He understands these people. He understands the rules, and he's
won.
Plus,
he's won.
As well as on the international stage, he's completely boxed in the neocons, because the neocons have spent the last 4 days saying
they've been salivating.
Whatever Trump says is the right thing to do. And what do you do now?
Good point.
You even had Bolton come out and say, no, please go with regime change. And you had Mark Levin losing his damn mind, whatever is little is left of it, saying, no, how dare he not pursue full regime change? So they went and they tried to say, we're MAGA now.
Yeah.
And then Trump did
A year
this
ago we were trying to
calm
put him
down.
in jail, but now we're MAGA.
Yeah. Exactly. And now they're sort of left completely homeless and irrelevant. So he's managed to, in a way, appease everybody, get what he wanted, and avoid a total war.
But also,
Respect.
also now, the people on the back foot are actually the Israelis.
Now the Israelis are on the back foot.
Because everyone's like, oh, well, Israel drives America's foreign policy. And it's like, well, everyone thought that it did. But now Trump's like, Israel, don't you dare.
It did drive the foreign policy for 25 years.
I agree.
All of these Middle Eastern wars, it was driven by Israel first.
Of course.
And now all of a sudden it's not true. And if Trump wanted to say, switch off the air defense in Israel, the THAAD operators won't keep working. The jets that are flying all over the region shooting down drones won't keep working. The Aegis cruisers will not shoot down any missiles. The Israelis would have absolutely nothing. Yep. Because the Arrow 3 system can't handle the Iranian barrages on its own. It needs that additional support from France, Britain, the United States, that's actually doing the proper missile defense in addition to the Israeli systems.
And also, speaking then of the men, this means that Netanyahu has to face down Trump. And Trump is used to getting his way. He's he literally just called them effing idiots who don't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
And he's not happy with the Israelis. So now Netanyahu has to be probably on a call with him right now, being like, oh, yes, Mr. President. If I were you,
I don't want to be Netanyahu today.
Exactly.
I never want to be Netanyahu.
Yeah,
but
of course, especially not now.
I don't want to be Netanyahu.
If I were him, I would just be like, yeah, okay, good point. Maybe we'll knock it off for a bit.
But what can the Israelis do? Because they said, they're going for a bomb. These are the sites. We've got to stop them now. So Trump's like, okay, fine, I'll bomb a mountain then.
Because the issue is never the issue. The issue is always revolution, right?
Yes.
The idea was it was an escalatory ladder.
Exactly, regime change. But now Netanyahu has to be like, yeah, okay, you did exactly everything that we wanted done, and you've pleased everyone on every side, and they've got to kind of just eat it.
They've got to eat it, and they've got to stick to pounding Gaza, which is,
not very nice, but at least it's not
back to the basics.
Yeah,
exactly. Back to what they can actually do. So we've ended up, in this weird situation where the Iranians pretty much told the Americans what they were bombing. The Americans told the Iranians what they were bombing. Everybody got really what they wanted.
It's so weird how the Iranians and the Americans are getting on so well.
It is hilarious. The thing is, ever since the Syrian government fell, I've been saying that there's a play here for the Iranians to partner with the Americans if only they were to be slightly less insane. And after Khamenei dies, it's going to be a military nationalist government. And a military nationalist government is going to keep some of the appearances of the Islamic State, but we've had this time and time again throughout Muslim history. This is how the Persians ended up ruling the Abbasid Caliphate, and then the Turks ended up ruling the Abbasid Caliphate. There was a caliph there, there was the sort of religious authority there, but in reality it was the military men in charge. This is how we had Mamluk Egypt.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Mamluks are a great example.
Exactly. Yeah. So you had all of these military regimes nominally under religious leadership, but it was the military men in charge. Yeah. And after Khamenei dies, this is pretty much what's going to happen in Iran. Or at least this is the other scenarios are much worse for the Iranians. This is the best one for the Iranians. And in that scenario, they have Pakistan, a Sunni power right next door, hates them. Turkey, Sunni power right next door, hates them.
But also, a military nationalist government is far less of an irrational prospect than a messianic religious fanatic.
Yes, exactly.
Military men are generally cut from the same cloth, as in what's happening in reality really matters.
Exactly.
Because this is win or die, win or lose, live or die. So that's entirely preferable.
Absolutely. So it looks like that's it. The Islamic Revolution has lost.
Yeah.
They can claim now for a few days, we stood up to the Americans and we fired, but everybody in Iran knows that this is propaganda.
Yeah.
And while they're happy that they didn't get completely humiliated, know.
But that's only because Trump's nice.
That's pretty
It's literally just down to Trump being nice to them.
because he doesn't want to get sucked into another regime change war. He managed to do it. And now he's staring down the Israelis. And thank you for your attention to this matter. This is going to be my new line. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
No Qataris killed, no Americans killed, very few Iranians killed.
There you go.
Few Israelis killed. This was the first Iran-Israel war was just thrilling.
Yep. And so we are, congratulations, world, it's time for peace. And
Does he do it?
he imposed a ceasefire.
Yeah,
the Israelis are still trying to rope him in.
Yeah.
But as I said, if they switch off the air defense...
They've had the flames. It's just been like, you've got to stop it now, Israel.
Yes.
Now, Iran isn't the problem. Iran are like, yeah, no, we're good boys now.
And the Iranians are saying, we accept the ceasefire. We didn't violate it.
Yep.
They denied that they were responsible for the...
The Iranians are showing the belly.
Exactly.
The big dog has come along, and the Iranians have rolled over. The Israelis are still yapping.
Exactly.
Okay, well, good luck.
I mean, they can't handle the consequences of it. Right. That's the long and short of it. If the Americans decide, okay, no air defense for 3 days, they will have nothing. They will have absolutely no say in it. They'll intercept some Iranian missiles, but the rate of damage would be much, much bigger, and they'll have to back down. And so...
the blame will be on them as well.
And the blame will be on them. This is imperial consolidation at its finest. Yeah. This is Trump saying, I'm in charge. I will indulge you here and there. I will do things that I think are important. But when the time comes, that's it. I'm in charge. Very genuinely impressive. Yeah. Genuinely impressive.
I've got to come back to my question, though. Was there any hint of this as being a plan a week ago? Or does he just feel it in the moment and he ends up here?
That all of thymotic politics is feeling in the moment.
The thing is, I think he says that both sides came to me. Is it in this tweet or in the next tweet? He said that both sides came to me asking for a ceasefire, and I've accepted and helped bring it about. So he sort of claimed that both the Iranians and the Israelis were asking for a ceasefire. He gave them both an off-ramp and said, I've decided. And why? Because they've both gotten it out of their systems.
Yeah.
And the nuclear program was blown to smithereens. That small detail there. So he got what he said he wanted, which is no Iranian nuclear weapons. The Israelis got what they say they wanted, but what they want is actually a considerably longer list, up to and including regime change. And here we are.
Yep. Just a quick question. How bothered about the nuclear program does Iran seem?
Look, it's always been misunderstood. It was never about getting a weapon, because if it was about getting a weapon, they would have been able to do that in 2003, 2004, like right after the Iraq invasion, when the Americans went on either side of Iran. The Iranians could have and should have gone for the bomb. Instead, they shut it down.
But what I'm saying is, like,
hold on.
Oh, God.
What they did was keep on enriching and keep on building up nuclear capability to say, we are fully autonomous in the nuclear cycle. We can do everything from mining uranium to enriching it to weapons level without building a weapon. And the idea was always, we're going to use that to force negotiations and force talks. When the United States, have to sit down with Iranian representatives, you are therefore acknowledging Iran as your equal. And that idea of parity, that we are the equal of the great powers.
It's about recognition.
It's about recognition. It's always about recognition. If they can get the Americans, the Europeans, to sit down with them as an equal, that means that they are delivering to their people Iran being a great power.
It's all ego politics.
It's fundamentally pride. It's all about pride.
Yeah. And that's pure thymos.
Yes.
But so what I mean is, like, Iran hasn't been acting like, oh no, they've struck our nuclear program, it's over, bros.
Yes.
Right? They haven't been acting like
No.
that. because the nuclear program is not key to their strategic, the tactical plan in the moment, right?
Exactly.
No, we're going to fire conventional rockets, and we were always going to fire conventional rockets.
Yes.
Take out the nuclear plan. It's like that's as you say, like a kind of conceptual weapon we're using.
Yes.
But it's not intrinsic to the actual plan.
The neocon narrative has been the moment they get a nuclear, they immediately drop it on.
Which means you'd think
which was always false, because Israel has a second strike capability, and even from Islamic theology, you can't justify nuking Israel in a way that guarantees your own obliteration.
Well, just practically, it's far more useful as a deterrent than a...
And practically, it's always been a deterrent weapon, and you can't deter the Americans with nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Not with a handful of them,
Yeah.
So you've built 5. Congratulations. What are you going to do with them? They'll get intercepted, and you'll get nuked to utter annihilation. So it was never practically viable for them.
Even if every single one of them hit, America is gargantuan.
Yes.
You wipe out 5 American cities. There must be hundreds of American cities.
Exactly.
Major cities.
And as long as you do the Democrat ones first.
Well, they're all Democrats. So at the end of the day, was anything of value lost?
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.